Good evening, folks. As I mentioned last week, we would be returning to an old video format called the Chain Reaction Report. Because what we have to talk to you about next is called the Chevron Deference or the Chevron Doctrine. It's called both things. So if you hear one or the other, it's the same thing, okay?
Right.
We want to talk about this because right behind Roe v. Wade, this was number 2 in importance for the right wing to get in front of the Supreme Court, and it is now there. And this is a big thing. This is no small matter. So I'm going to turn this over to Dave.
So before I get into it, I'm going to let you guys know exactly what I'm going to talk about. This is basically just a primer, how the Chevron deference came to be, uh, where it came out of, which is ironic because it came from the Clean Air Act from Richard Nixon, who recognized that people couldn't breathe and that might affect his bottom line and the bottom line of his business associates. So, without further ado, I'm going to shut my phone off so I don't have to hear people. And so this starts with the Clean Air Act because the Chevron deference came about because of interpretations between two different presidential offices in terms of wording of the Clean Air Act. So the Clean Air Act is a comprehensive federal law that gives you the EPA authority to regulate air pollutants and polluting industry. It started as far back as 1955, but the real teeth were given to the was given to the agency by Nixon in 1970. Okay. Why was the Clean Air Act enacted? Because particulate matter, ground level ozone, smog, cities like New York and LA suffer from deadly smog episodes stemming from garbage incinerators and coal and oil powered plants and other sources. Okay.
And by the way, air, just like global warming, has no boundaries.
Right.
Okay? It has no boundaries.
Now they mention um, a deadly smog incident in 1948 in Donora, Pennsylvania. 14,000 people fell sick because of toxic smog, being a lethal combination of carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and metal dust produced by a zinc plant and a steel mill.
We should also mention that uh, 20 people died.
Oh, correct. 20
And,
people
and,
died.
and that 14,000 that got sick is nearly a third of the town's total population.
Clean Air Act passed in 1970, okay, by Richard Nixon.
With a unanimously
Yep.
partisan effort. This is the way it used to be, folks, okay?
And even back in the day, listen, Deb and I are not fans of Richard Nixon, but was the right thing to do in this particular case.
And by the way, this passed in the House by a 374-1 vote. Folks, this is when you can at least talk to the GOP.
Right.
Okay?
So let's see here. So, let me see. I think, yeah, there we go. This just talks about the Clean Air Act and how it affected the economy in a positive way, which, by the way, the Republicans want to completely eliminate the EPA and they want to eliminate what's called the Chevron deference, which I will get into in one moment. Um, but here are numbers of statistics, data in regards to how it protects people from pollution related health problems, premature death, improves the health and productivity of the workforce. So
Folks, this is called the public health. Okay. That's what this is.
just and this is what we call peer review study, what's called science. Section 812 of the CAA mandated that the EPA conduct one of the most thorough public and expert reviewed analyses of an environmental statute ever conducted. The peer-reviewed 2011 EPA study found that in 2020 alone, reductions in fine particle pollution and ozone pollution achieved by the Clean Air Act amendments of 1990 avoided two what was it 2,300,000 premature deaths, 200,000 heart attacks, millions of cases of respiratory problems such as acute bronchitis and asthma attacks, and 135,000 hospital admissions. So this is where we get into the whole agency difference. Okay. In 1984, the Supreme Court decided a case called Chevron versus National Resources Defense Council. Concept of Chevron deference came out of the competing interpretations of the Clean Air Act between the Carter and Reagan administrations. Carter wanted every single building in the town because every single building can cause some kind of uh, pollution, and Reagan wanted like a floor. It should be this much or whatever. And that's where this came from. This is John Paul Stevens, by the way, who who said that the individual agencies who were created by the government have the experts to interpret this stuff.
Not
So
the
now, yeah. So it's more uh, research on the Chevron doctrine and what happens if the Supreme Court ends the Chevron doctrine or the Chevron deference. The power of the federal agencies like EPA to set rules and enforce environmental protections would shrink even more, and it would actually you're talking about the balance of power. The balance of power would actually go to the courts.
So essentially, the courts making decisions on issues that they have absolutely no knowledge on.
Right.
I don't really
Yep.
believe that the courts are the appropriate place to determine anything.
And neither do the three liberal judges of the Supreme Court.
Right. Beyond the Constitution. They have no knowledge of anything specific when it comes to air pollution, safe drinking water, or anything else.
Now, even with the EPA, we've had several, the BP oil spill. Here's another example. You have the Gulf oil spill over and over and over again. On Long Island, we have what's called the Bethpage plume, which is contaminated drinking water from a degreaser called trichloroethylene from a Navy plant, a Grumman Navy plant. This is the Louisiana fossil fuel sacrifice zone.
It's incredible.
also known as Cancer Alley. So
85 miles of communities and 200 fossil fuel and petrochemical operations within that space. Unbelievable.
so so what could possibly happen is the EPA, which what again, it was created by Richard Nixon and the Republican Party, what, 50 years ago, uh, over 50 years ago. And if you remember, it's what we call super funds. Thousands of contaminated sites exist nationally due to hazardous waste being dumped, left out in the open, or otherwise improperly managed. Okay, so we have Love Canal, Valley of the Drums, tons of sites actually, and contaminated rivers. So basically, partly what this Chevron deference could do is further complicate cleanups
Right.
and allow businesses to do whatever the hell they want, to be honest with you. Now, it
You know,
it doesn't,
we can't allow that because
yeah,
we already have a problem with global warming here. Anybody who is, I'm sorry, but I'm from the Boston area. It's pouring rain right now. It's January. They've been threatening snow for 3 months. We didn't see any snow last year to speak of. Um, we're losing snow here we lost, I believe it was a foot of snow coverage in the last 10 years alone in New England. And, you know, we are now looking at overturning the Chevron doctrine in the middle of this. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? I don't. I
well, not only could it allow companies to to do more polluting, but it could also logjam the Supreme Court. So if eventually we do have a liberal court, they could be hamstrung with all of these cases as opposed to an abortion case or something that will overturn some of the bad decisions that this right wing court has done. The other thing is that, again, this uh, Chevron deference or Chevron doctrine states that outside agencies can interpret vague laws. And a lot of these laws have gray areas to to give a little leeway here or there. But understand the EPA is not the only government agency.
no.
Here's a list.
Yep.
Okay. General Services Administration, United States Access, I believe this is Access Board. Okay. National Labor Relations Board. What's going to happen to FMLA or labor disputes?
I believe the FCC would also be
The
involved.
FCC. Yep.
So let's talk about that for 1 minute because I posted a story earlier in the week about what could essentially happen is places like Google collect data.
Right.
People online who may be looking to get an abortion in another state. The FCC would be powerless to prevent turning that information over to government agencies or to bounty hunters, by the way.
Right.
This is a huge, huge thing. This isn't just something where we can sit back and say, oh, well, so it goes. This is
Right.
giant.
Equal opportunity, Employment Opportunity Council, the EEOC. I mean, it just goes on. The FDA, the ATF, Border Patrol. I mean,
U.S.
it
Department.
goes on and on and on and on.
So, by all accounts, the Supreme Court should actually know what to do here that's right to do. And it would be not to overturn this thing. But this is a conservative Supreme Court that was put in place for a reason. And this was one of those reasons. And they're already signaling that they're going to overturn the Chevron
Right.
doctrine. That is a huge problem. Again, just more mess that will have to be cleaned up somewhere down the road.
What I will say is that if you are under the impression that the Republican Party is worried about overregulation, they're worried about overregulation for their buddies and for themselves, not for the individual people. All right. I mean, come on, give me a break. This is a story from Robert Reich. Republicans once called government the problem. Now they want to run your life. And he's absolutely right. They want to tell you who you can sleep with, what you can ingest into your body, what medications you can take, whether or not you can get an abortion, who you can marry.
But
I mean, what
they
drugs you
want
can
to
get
open the door wide
mifepristone.
for their business buddies. That's really what they want to do.
Right, right, of course. So we're going to keep an eye on this. This could be huge for government regulation everywhere, including for labor.
Right.
Okay. The National Labor Relations Board, it's a government agency. And I know for a fact, as a 15-year veteran uh, union representative, that contractual law and laws are oftentimes written squishy and written with uh, language that can be interpreted one way or another to protect all parties. But if the individual agencies can't now interpret this and now everything has to go to the courts, you're at the mercy of the courts. Right now, the courts happen to be a Republican majority, slight Republican majority, and we're getting it back, but we can't wait that long. Okay, so this is where we're at. This is a bigger deal than people might think. You're all about, oh, we need clean air, we need clean water. What are the Democrats doing about it? Not going to be able to do much if all the regulations and rules are stripped.
By the way,
So
the courts have already limited the EPA's power to regulate industrial pollutants, industrial air pollutants earlier, with another ruling that wasn't as broad in scope as the Chevron doctrine.
right, right.
So they're already at it, and there should be no question where they're going to go with this. And it's not as simple as saying, well, we'll fix it when we get the majority back. We'll just expand.
No.
You want to expand the court? I'm going to tell you what that's going to take. That's going to take 60 senators, because there is absolutely no way any Republican senator that may be left in office till 2029 is going to cross the aisle to support that. They stepped
And
for a reason, and it's now
and
home to roost.
to be honest with you, that is why Deb and I wanted to focus on the Senate for now. We're going to do 2, 3, maybe more shows on the Senate. We have to take every single Senate seat back that we possibly can. And when I show all of you uh, graphs or charts from like Ballotpedia and 520 to win or whatever it is, all of those, they may have polling data in there. Pay no attention to the polling data.
Right.
I don't believe that any of these sites are bad actors or right wing, blah blah blah, but they are acting or reacting to data based on the old rules. This past election was batshit crazy. It wasn't. It is not a normal election. Donald Trump is not a normal ex-president. These this these Senate seats, these House seats, all of these elections, they are not normal. So to try to predict who's going to win, I'm going to predict we
Based
need
on
to get
data from
every
2020.
single Democrat we need to get in
Yeah,
that we possibly can. We're not going to win 100%. I know that, but we need a massive change. Do I think that we're going to get 60? We senators, we need to go on that road. We need to move towards that direction. We damn well can't move backwards.
no, we can't. We've only got a two-seat lead right now. And Kamala Harris has had to be the tiebreaker several times already. So please, folks, this isn't a joke. All right. This is not a joke. All right.
I
We've
will,
already lost the House. We need to win the
right.
House back. And I don't care what they say about you only need 5 seats. We need as many seats as we.
No, we need 120 seats or however many or I mean we need everything that we can. As Jennifer Rubin said, it needs to be torn down.
Yeah. I mean,
By
look,
by by the way, I want to say this, and I'm going to say more about it in the main show. John Tester, everybody talks about how in peril he is. Do you know who the main candidate running against him is? Someone who lost against him the last election. So stop listening to the polls.
right.
If you live in Montana, you have to vote. I'm telling you right now, you got to vote.
All right, gang, we'll be back with the big show.